It doesn't take a lot to excite fans of video games these days. We've just come off the back of E3 where they throw trailers at you every 5 seconds and you're gonna find something to enjoy. Unless of course you're a robot, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just don't ruin my fun.
Nothing gathers momentum quite like the hype train. Seriously, don't conventional trains have speed limits to adhere to? The hype train just does what it wants without caring for if it's causing problems for other trains that are trying to share the same stretch of track. Since video game trailers have gained prevalence, they've been used to tickle the excitement of the masses, and naturally, some are really fucking good at it.
You know, just take it all. I don't. You have it. I don't need it. Why are the dollars in here?
Not gonna say that there's a bunch of criteria that needs to be met, but I know what I like. Preferably keeping the details to a minimum because I just don't care at this stage. Keep it light, keep me hyped, and if you could throw in some fun visuals or funky music, that'd be cool. Don't toy with my emotions. I'm a delicate soul. When you're making a trailer for a massive game and an iconic franchise that people know is coming out eventually, the single most important feature is tone. Not details that help to shape the story or anything crap like that. You've got to be aware that if a series is doing well enough, people will be excited for a game off of very little information. Was Grand Theft Auto 5 shown off to the public with a bunch of scenes from the story mode? Not yet, we gotta show off important stuff first. How do you assuage fears that Grand Theft Auto 5 will be as grimly realistic as it was in the last game? Well, you make GTA 5 look as bright and as vibrant as you can so it looks enticing to play and ruin with your presence as a psychopathic sociopath. Seriously, that's how Grand Theft Auto games should be approached. You see this wonderfully exciting place to live and explore, and all you can think to yourself is, I'm gonna burn it to the ground and I'm gonna have all sorts of fun doing it. Works a bit like a structured sandbox game, and this trailer does a lot to convince you that this is gonna be a pretty detailed playground. Rockstar did something similar with what we first saw about Red Dead Redemption 2. You can bet we get the same when they decide to make GTA 6. Just make sure that your parent company aren't dicks to mod creators. That's a bad idea. Horror games, am I right? Yeah, there's an interesting type of game trailer if I ever did see one. Generally, it works in the same way as trailers for a horror movie. Layer tension on top of intrigue and suspense and never ever show off what the monster looks like. That's very important. The original Alien trailer? Beautiful, industry standard set for the next 4 decades. Bioshock isn't really a conventional horror game, but there's a ton and a half of creepy undertones both hiding in the background and running up to you with weapons. Making a trailer for that sounds like a lot of fun.
The first bit of dialogue you hear in Bioshock is Andrew Ryan talking about brow sweat and his idyllic society, which I always saw as being really vague. But then there's the trailer they showed off at E3 in 2006, which starts off confusing, and then gets really violent.
Honestly, I could listen to Andrew Ryan say vague statements about morality all day. But in this trailer, we get the first glimpse of the underwater city of Rapture and how everything isn't quite as rosy as you might like it to be. You first get establishing shots of Rapture with musings from Andrew Ryan, and then it kicks up a gear as you get a first-person sequence of some guy with a wrench looking to hurt this small girl, but then, oh, it's an angry man with a drill arm. That's okay, I've got drugs that turn my busted arm into insects. Remember what I said about not showing off the monster in the trailer? Yeah, generally don't do that, but if you do and you kill it, there's other ways around that. It's not a horror game, mind you, but it kind of is. It's okay, he's just after your brow sweat. He's a nice guy the rest of the time. You can trace certain trends in advertising back to particular standout examples, like the stereotypical epic movie trailer with lots of deep sound effects. Yeah, you can blame Inception for that. Advertising of any sort that tries to get really friendly with you? Apparently the fault of the UK-based drinks company Innocent. They make good stuff, but I wish I could read the packaging without getting the sense that this orange juice wants to fuck me. Also, some adverts try to be all sad and reflective instead of grandiose. Not trying to make you feel good about yourself and instead trying to get you to cry. At least in the world of video games, this comes from a Gears of War trailer. Fucking what? No, this happened, and given the manly dude bro approach taken towards Gears of War, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And yet, rather than celebrate the triumphant assault on all of these weird bugs, it's a lot more depressing. You get establishing shots of how fucked up the world's become before you see Marcus Phoenix run from pillar to post looking for things to shoot. And thanks to some music that I can't play for you since it's copyrighted, you get more of a feeling of how isolated Marcus is in his fight to save the world. In the game, he's the leader of Delta Squad, but I think it still works. Incidentally, for the remastered version some 10 years after, they ran a similar trailer but flooded it with action and key moments in the story, and I don't think that works. Kinda loses impact, you know? More representative of the game, but that's no fun. Did you know there's a whole Wikipedia page for the marketing behind Halo 3? Neither did I, but the more you read about it, the more you realize just how much effort Bungie put towards promoting the final game of one of gaming's most iconic trilogies. There were video documentaries, countless trailers, licensed action figures, fucking Halo-branded Mountain Dew. You get the sense that Bungie didn't want this game to fail, or Microsoft didn't want to miss out on any money. They even built this huge, massively detailed diorama that depicted a violent battle between Marines and the Covenant. Lots of work went into this. Then they did this with it. So the whole thing about sadvertising, yeah, we're rocking that pretty hard now. Given the industry standard for big, bombastic AAA FPS games, you expect something similarly grand, but instead you get something quiet and thoughtful. It doesn't depict anything specific. The artists behind the diorama weren't told any important story details, so the approach was just a tribute to Master Chief. You've got Chopin playing in the background and anguished faces of Marines, and you know what? It looks good. Better than the Mountain Dew, that's for sure.
I remember seeing this trailer back in 2007 when I didn't really give half a shit about anything to do with Halo, but the slow overview of this incredibly detailed diorama, it stuck with me for ages. You could even explore it yourself on the website via this interactive video. I didn't really know any context about it, I didn't care, but I was interested all the same. That's the sign of a good trailer.
I guess there has to be a temptation, given that we've recently seen off E3, to fill this video with recent trailers for games that haven't even come out yet, given that we're still riding this wave of excitement, which tends to make everything seem just a little bit better. I was genuinely thinking about putting Metroid Prime 4's teaser on here, just because of what it meant in the wider scheme of things, and for Nintendo having enough understanding of the situation to be able to get a point across with a fucking number. We didn't see that coming. We did see Super Mario Odyssey coming though, but not like this. I feel like that's an important factor to consider though. With Nintendo plastering Mario's hat all over their presence at this year's E3, it was even more obvious than it was before that Mario Odyssey was making an appearance, and you get near the end of the showcase and clearly they've saved it for last. The element of surprise is gone, but starting the trailer off like something from Monster Hunter and actually using it as a segue into explaining a key component of the game while also maintaining the momentum throughout the 2.5-minute trailer. Honestly, 90% of it is the music, which when used in conjunction with the bright, vibrant visuals you'd expect from a Mario game, it just looks like a lot of fun. I'd go so far as to say that of all of the trailers out there which tried to make their game look fun without being all artsy and minimalist, Super Mario Odyssey's might just be the best I've seen. Hey, if you want to show me Mario possessing dinosaurs, taxis, frogs, human people, you have my attention. Though with everyone claiming that it'll be the best Mario game in decades, keep it calm guys, it's 1-0 yet.
Certain teaser or reveal trailers are specifically designed to show off an idea more than anything else. You don't need to do much with that. Like, Nintendo could have easily shown off Metroid Prime 4 with gameplay and story beats and that kind of thing, but you don't have to. It's a concept. That's all you need.
Depending on who you ask, you get the sense that a 10-year gap is a long time to wait between video games. Metroid Prime 4 won't come out this year, so the time between Prime games will actually be longer than a decade, but at least in that time, games have been made under the Metroid name. They weren't very good, but it's better than nothing. Just about. Fallout went through this too. Changes in development meant that the only games to tie fans over were weird tactical spin-offs, and it'll do, but you still wish for something more recognizable. Got you covered there. Fallout 3's teaser trailer is a testament to how much you can show off in 2.5 minutes without getting into any specific details. Really, after a decade of no new main Fallout games, you can get away with a slow zoom out of a ruined bus with 2 shots of iconic Fallout imagery. There's also some old-timey 1930s pop music, but I think it's copyrighted again, so you've got whatever the next best thing is, but this whole trailer is proof that you can say so much without really doing anything. Fucking Spider-Man Homecoming spoiling the whole movie in a trailer? Go back to school. I'm fairly confident that no game series out there has had such consistently amazing trailers as Smash Bros. I mean, they don't do anything particularly special most of the time, but that's because Smash Bros is a franchise that has built its excitement from what characters end up getting into the roster. That's for one thing that the trailers for Melee, Brawl, and Smash 4 have in common. It's all about putting giant arrows underneath newcomers and saying, "Look at this shit, ain't we cool?" Absolutely, look what it did to Etika. Sakurai's wild ride of DLC fighter announcements was an endless rollercoaster of jaw-dropping reveals, but I don't think any of this would have been possible if Smash Bros. Brawl hadn't set the trend with this madness. Brawl's trailer is fairly basic if you think about it. You get a quick graphics comparison with Melee, a run-through of new stages and abilities, a quick showcase of Final Smashes being awesome, even an introduction to new characters like Meta Knight and Pit. Anyone remember that guy? I hope he gets a new game soon. But let me tell you, with one big reveal at the end, you elevate a fairly standard trailer into the realms of the gods. I don't know what this is, I don't really understand it, but I know I like it and that my penis has knocked the moon out of orbit. Sorry sailors and surfers, some madman over at Nintendo decided to put motherfucking Solid Snake in Smash Bros. You can't legislate for that. Not so much for the reveal itself, but for the manner in which they dropped it. Slowly over time to let the idea of Snake being in Smash Bros fester in your mind. You think, surely not. What Pandora's box of craziness have you opened here today? Most of the time I'd say that you shouldn't put anything in a game trailer that doesn't show up in the main game, just because of the necessary stigma surrounding promotional content that isn't reflective of the final game. Especially made cinematics though, oh no, they're my jam. One of my longtime favourites is the cinematic Valve made for Left 4 Dead 2, which obviously never shows up in regular gameplay in this co-op zombie shooter, but it sets the tone so well that it functions perfectly as a trailer and latterly as an intro. Hey, I know another game that did that, but it was made by Blizzard. Blizzard employs more people than Valve. That must be why the trailer and intro for Starcraft 2 Heart of the Swarm is a CGI masterpiece. Even if you don't know what's going on, and that's highly likely given that it doesn't give you too many details to go on, I'm sure you can appreciate the scale both behind the battle that's being depicted here and the level of detail woven into every frame. It's only about 2 minutes, which means that the people who worked on this can see their families, but it's also long enough to show the power of the bad guys, and you might know that I like that. But hold up, maybe it was a dream. You know, this is the kind of mystery and unexplained occurrences that I appreciate in a trailer. Give me more of that, please. Taking artistic liberties with a game concept tends to be a dangerous move. Sure, you want to dress it up for an excited audience and worry about transforming it all into something functional at a later date, but there is such a thing as going too far. Like, we can all happily accept whenever we hear a game described as one of the most exciting you'll ever play, but I think nowadays it's hard to connect a fancy complicated trailer to any kind of tangible experience. Dead Island broke a sacred bond. But for a while there I was convinced, and dare I say that lots of other people were too. You were stupid too, right? Tell me straight, I can take it. The whole Dead Island situation reminds me too much of the classic phrase never meet your heroes, as it follows a similar line of expectation versus reality. Given the meticulous way this trailer is crafted with powerful visuals, a deeply moving soundtrack, and scenes that have been reversed and spliced together to make the story being told that little bit harder to grasp, the natural reaction is to think that this spectacular trailer is indicative of the final product that will blow our minds and break our hearts when it comes out. What we got instead was a mediocre arcade-like zombie game that had the emotional punch of a deflating balloon. Not good. Gotta hand it to them though, by which I mean Axis Productions, who are based in the UK. They sure know how to sell a video game. They could make a trailer about paying your taxes and I'd be on board with that.
So you want me to explain my job? I make videos on YouTube and people click on the ads and sometimes I'll get a bit of money for that, and that's pretty much it.
It's weird to think that we went whole years without any new information about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, we got that one trailer at E3 fucking eons ago, but then Nintendo were like, nah, you don't need to know anything else about it. You can fill the rest in for yourself, fuck you. It doesn't matter how excited you are, if you get little to no feedback about something, that hype is gonna dwindle pretty quickly. But then, out of the endless ether came new information and gameplay at last year's E3, and it was seen to be amazing. So many details in such a short space of time, just look at it, ain't it beautiful? Mostly it's establishing shots and some voice telling me to open my eyes. I have, and I like what I'm looking at. Wait, you've got more that isn't just gameplay? Yeah, they showed off more at the Game Awards at the back end of last year, but it was still cryptic and mysterious and barely showed off any structure. That's fine, we don't need structure, it's an open world, you do what you want, Nintendo, I trust you. But then, with Nintendo needing something big to end off their Switch Direct in January this year, we got what I would say is the most perfectly paced trailer in video game history. Slow shots of wildlife, serene scenery before finding the Master Sword in a forest somewhere. Triumphant music and clips of voice acting accompanies more gameplay as the game starts to get more structure, and wham! Look at all these cutscenes played without context as the music just takes it for a ride. You know, this takes a great deal of understanding about a game's assets. Everything here shows up in the game, but it's presented in such a way that you can't piece anything together ahead of time. You let it wash over you and absorb everything this trailer has to offer, and it's quite a lot. Gameplay interlaced with cutscenes, and that music comes to a head, and it's just so good. Nintendo, take the wheel. Take me somewhere nice.
This is RabbidLuigi, and given the lack of information about Breath of the Wild and how it would interact with the new console, this was a massively important trailer for convincing people that Nintendo still knew what they were doing. Do you remember not so long ago when Nintendo were having a hard time and people didn't really trust what they would do next? It feels like a different era. All aboard, I guess. We're going somewhere fun.